Hey everyone, thanks for being here. So I'm Charlie, one of the co-founders, along with Adam of RWA.xyz. So we're the leading data analytics platform for all things tokenization. And so if you're issuing a tokenized asset or integrating into your product in any way that we can help with, please find myself or Adam afterwards to get connected with someone on our team. And so the presentation I wanted to give today was around how we understand the different types of tokenized assets and where the market we feel is going based off of our view of talking with hundreds of different tokenized asset issuers, many of the top institutions in the space, and tracking over now, I guess, like 700 billion between stablecoins and RWAs on our platform. And so what we sort of see in the market right now is that everyone that we talk to definitely agrees that composability and DeFi asset mobility is the end game of where everything in tokenization is going. And so we've split it up into 3 different phases as to the different value adds and capabilities of a tokenized asset. The first one is that an asset can be recorded on chain. And so I'll go into the specifics of each one in the next few slides. Next is capital formation. So you actually syndicate the asset on chain. You have people providing stable coins or a wire, and then they hold that in their own wallet. And the next is enabling that composability and mobility of the asset into DeFi protocols, trading protocols, structured products, exchange collateral, et cetera. All of the more DeFi native, crypto native use cases that really enable internet capital markets. And our thesis is basically that each of these phases, all assets will eventually move all the way to the end where you have composability, you have asset mobility. So to start off with, and we can talk about the point of this, which is that, as we all know, ledgers are, if you build one internally, it's extremely complicated technology, and you can take full advantage of what's already been built by many of the leaders in the space, like our next guest that will be speaking, where you have people like Broadridge tokenizing 400 billion plus, depending on the day, of repurchase agreements, and doing it on chain because it's just a much better ledger, it's much better technology, it's easier for counterparties to deal with, and it, at the end of the day, just saves costs. Similarly, another public company Figure, which did a recent IPO, they found in their case study that it saves 1% off of the cost of capital for originating home equity lines of credit. So, of course, in a market where your rate being offered is 9% and you can save 1%, and you split that between you and your lender, that's a huge competitive advantage in the market just by switching to a better technology, which is, of course, digital ledger. The next phase that we sort of see in the market, and this is where a lot of the assets that that we track are, and what a lot of people care about in the market are, which is capital formation. Of course, we've seen with meme coins like Trump, we've seen with Athena, Plasma's recent launch, with having 6 billion right at launch, is that capital formation on chain is extremely fast. Anyone that has money on chain, in a 24/7 market, is able to find the best opportunities nearly instantly and allocates to it way faster than before. People still do roadshows, of course, but when you have something like on-chain finance, it's just much, much easier to form capital around a productive opportunity and non-productive opportunities in the cases of things like meme coins as well. And the leaders in this space, you can see here, BlackRock with Securitize, of course, being used as collateral in numerous stablecoins and other tokenized treasury products. Janus Henderson with Centrifuge, where they have a AAA CLO product being used by Maker. Maker, of course, the biggest on-chain allocator to the form of billions of dollars to various tokenized assets from, again, the top asset managers in all of finance, BlackRock, Janus Henderson, Fidelity, many others. And of course, long list of other folks at the bottom here as well. So Maple, who went from 0 to 5 billion in value in really just like smaller end of 2 years. And that sort of extremely rapid capital formation is possible because the assets are on chain. And finally, sort of where we see the future going and what's already started to emerge is when you start to compose assets together into DeFi. And of course, we've already seen this with things like, of course, the emerging leaders in the space like Aave with their Horizon Markets, with Morpho, and to highlight some of the like leaders in terms of what's actually like the productive use cases. There's, I think, about 100 million of MF1. So MF1, which is a private credit fund that is managed by Fasanara, which is an asset manager in the UK, like very traditional asset manager in the UK. They are able to, through Midas, their tokenization platform, integrate it into Morpho lending platform, and you can take the spread sometimes between 8 and 12% minus like your cost of capital, and loop that up to like 5 times. So there's people in this market who are doing these looping strategies that are making between 20 and 40% on any given day by levering up this private credit fund entirely just on chain. And so it's these sort of capabilities. Of course, looping and getting leverage is not the only one. There's just one that has gained a lot of favor with crypto native participants who are chasing those highest yields. We've also seen cases of like Athena and Pendle, where of course you can strip the yield and do all sorts of other structuring things that are much more expensive to do in traditional finance. I mean, if you needed to do some sort of interest rate swap, you need an ISDA, you got to go to a lawyer and figure out how this would work. And they're probably not going to do it for less than like, well, $50 million minimum, $10 million minimum. But you can get the same thing happening on chain for the cost of just a transaction fee, a few dollars, a few cents if you're on a cheaper chain. Now, a few of the problems that we've seen in the market that sort of stop us from getting to this future where you have all these assets on chain and they're all able to be used and structured, and you have a way more efficient market because of it. The first one is liquidity. And I guess actually like the one thing to highlight here is that all of these there's a lot of progress that we see being made already during this year and that we foresee being made throughout the rest of the year, where there's a recent announcement by Securitize and Uniswap X, where BlackRock's BUIDL is able to be traded on Uniswap X through their RFQ platform, solving one of these liquidity problems. Same thing with, there's a recent announcement with MetaLayer, and that was doing multi-liquid, where you have a sort of like a warehousing pool in order to get liquidity for tokenized assets. And again, this enables the things like Aave and liquidations that are needed to happen in order for leverage to be possible. And then these last two, regulatory clarity. Of course, we're getting weekly updates at this point of the Clarity Act going through the Senate, and we think that will unlock tons more asset managers to get into the space once it is something that's officially legal to be doing. And lastly, just institutional readiness. It just takes time for things to proliferate in finance. And as people like the BlackRocks and the Franklin Templetons, those market leaders start to get more comfortable with these things, and people see that it's legal and safe and that these businesses are becoming better, I think we'll just see way more institutional readiness and way more institutional adoption happen throughout the next few years. And so putting it all together in terms of like where some of these assets are in in this framework that we have. So of course, Broadridge is doing, like I said before, $400 billion of repo transactions every single day. And there was recently a news item about them wanting to enable stablecoin usage from like across the rest of Canton in order to fund that. And so again, that's them moving from where they are now into doing more capital formation on chain. Similarly with Figure recently launching Prime and having Prime be able to be lent against on Camino on Solana. So get an 8% yield, lever it up a few times against 5% cost of capital, and you're getting like 15 to 30% interest on that. Very lucrative to a lot of on-chain capital who's comfortable with it. And to highlight one particular example of Franklin Templeton, it actually started where they were one of the leaders in terms of actually putting a money market on a public blockchain, where they followed with the SEC, and blockchain was just framed as something that they're doing in addition to their regular book entry system. So they're like, cool, we want to experiment with this. We're going to track things the regular way, and then we're going to also do it on a blockchain and go from there. 2 years later, they launched their own app, and they started to enable capital formation on-chain as well. So now you can actually, through their own app, invest into this product. Then 3 years after that, 2 years ago, enabled P2P transfers. So now in addition to just accessing it through the app, you can actually pull it into your own wallet, again, enabling like capital formation, and now enabling things like DeFi and other composability with protocols like BounceBit, these aggregators. Recently, Binance also whitelisted it into their own exchange, so you can hold your Benji money market fund on chain and trade perpetuals through Binance while getting that yield. And so, it's taken 6 years to get here, but slowly but surely, we think that all these other traditional asset managers, and of course startups in the space, like in the ones in the room here, will all move into this future of DeFi composability. And so, to finish off, things that were recorded yesterday, we see are being capitalized today with on-chain capital formation, and then they'll be composable tomorrow. That's it. Thanks.